Tupac article had me pissed off, you know what I'm saying? And the rumors that's spreading.
Biggie Smalls never saw his death coming, but he sure left some talk on Tupac before it happened. Join us because we're taking a walk through the wild side.
Attack you if you on top, you know what I'm saying? That's your job to bob and weave, you know?
Biggie and Tupac. One more time after Tupac's death, the world shifted. Everything felt heavier. Eyes turned toward Biggie, waiting for his response. And sure, he had plenty of chances to speak. Interviews, casual remarks, subtle jabs and performances. But one moment stood out above the rest. Just a week before his own life was cut short, Biggie Smalls finally broke the silence about Tupac. And when he spoke, the air itself seemed to pause. Biggie didn't lash out. He didn't spit anger or blame anyone. He just said, Tupac was not just his rival. It wasn't bitterness. It was acknowledgement. He understood the gravity of what had happened and the part both of them played in letting it spiral. Only then did he begin to see the full scope of the storm they had unleashed. Two young men, each larger than life, had somehow become symbols of entire coasts, entire cities, entire mindsets. That was never the plan. Biggie admitted it hit him hard, realizing the feud had grown bigger than personal pride. Strangers hated him for what Tupac said. Headlines twisted every small moment into a new story. And while he didn't point fingers, he felt the weight of it all, the pain, the escalation, the lives affected. He reflected on his music legacy, born from struggle and loss, and recognized how quickly the streets could swallow a man whole. By then, just days before Life After Death dropped, he knew he wasn't the same. He couldn't glorify the streets the same way anymore. He had seen where the path led, and he knew he might follow Tupac if he didn't shift. He said he didn't want to carry the war anymore, not from fear, but from understanding the cause. Tupac couldn't stop it. He was gone. The responsibility landed squarely on Biggie. At that moment, it wasn't a rapper talking. It was a man processing trauma, regret, and responsibility. He didn't smile when Tupac's name came up. He paused, let silence do the talking, and spoke of unity. How artists from opposite coasts could still collaborate, respect each other, and create something real. He wanted the world to see that even after tragedy, connection was possible. Even after a war, healing could begin. But it wasn't going to be pretty. Here's the full story.
Rumors that's spreading is on some tip like we set them up.
A pact is made, yo. Back in the golden days of hip-hop, two names ruled the block like kings, Pac and Big. Tupac Shakur, the fire starter, and Christopher Wallace, the smooth-talking heavyweight we all knew as Biggie. They started off tight, like brothers chasing the same dream. But somewhere down that fame-filled road, love turned to smoke. Betrayal, pride, and bullets made sure their story would echo forever in hip-hop history. See, before the beef, it was all love. Both coasts were vibing. No tension yet? Pac was that dude, already selling out records, flipping movie roles, and spitting truth from the gut. He had that energy that couldn't be caged, man. Everybody felt it. But then came the talk, the streets buzzing like wires. Biggie broke his silence just a week before his life got cut short, talking about Pac, about the game, about everything that went sideways. It all started back in '93, when rap still felt like family, not war. That's when legends crossed paths and the clock started ticking. So, picture this. Brooklyn was still rough around the edges and Biggie, back then just Chris from the block, was out here trying to make his voice cut through the noise. He had just dropped Party and Bullsh, and yeah, it slapped, but he wasn't a superstar yet. He was hungry, chasing a dream with scuffed sneakers and big ambition. Now, this is where fate started cooking. Word on the street. Pac caught Biggie's track on the Poetic Justice set. Man had it blasting, head bopping like he found gold. That right there was wild. Imagine your verse playing loud while Tupac himself vibing to your sound like it's his personal anthem. That wasn't no small flex. That was respect, stamped and sealed. But the real bond, it ain't happened under no movie lights. It happened in a little house filled with food, drink, and laughter. Pac didn't greet Big like a fan. Nah, he treated him like kin. Walked straight into the kitchen, grabbed a pan, and started throwing down food for the crew. Steaks, fries, and all that good stuff. Pac's way of saying, you one of us. No interviews, no clout chase. Just real ones breaking bread and building trust. That night hit different. Pac was already shining bright in the fame lane, but he didn't act above Biggie. He lifted him, dropped game, passed the Henny, even told him to crash at his LA spot anytime. That was love in its rawest form. The vibe between them, unshakable. The world wasn't ready, but it was about to witness something legendary. July 23, 1993, the Palladium, New York City. The air was hot, the crowd electric, and two future legends stepped on stage side by side, Tupac and Biggie. No rivalry, no shots, just pure flow. They traded lines back and forth like brothers who spoke the same language through rhythm. It wasn't competition, it was connection. For that moment, the world saw what hip-hop was meant to be. Back then, they were mirrors of each other. Two men from opposite sides of the map chasing the same dream. Biggie even asked Pac to guide his career, to help him climb. That's how deep the loyalty went. But every bright story has its shadows. Before the headlines and chaos, there were quiet nights. Pac flipping steaks in a cramped kitchen. Biggie cracking jokes at the table, both laughing like tomorrow was promised. They didn't know what was coming. The trust was real, but the world around them was already changing. When Pac started rolling with heavy street figures like Haitian Jack and Jimmy Henchman, Big tried to warn him, told him the game was cold. It told him, boy, there was gay deed, that not everyone smiling was a friend. Pac brushed it off, maybe pride, maybe belief, maybe both. And that's where the first cracks started showing. No one could have guessed that brotherhood would turn into one of the most talked about feuds in music history. And just days before his own end, Biggie finally spoke about the man who was once his brother.
Well, I got the Life After Death, double CD dropping March 25th.
Music changes. Fast forward to November 30, 1994. New York was biting cold that night, the kind that made every breath feel like smoke. Tupac had flown in on business as usual, recording, grinding, staying busy. He had court cases hanging over his head, so every verse he dropped meant another dollar towards staying free. That's who Pac was, always on go, always chasing something bigger. That evening, the call came through. Quad Recording Studios, Times Square. Lil Cease, one of Biggie's close boys from Junior MAFIA, said to pull up. Nothing unusual, Pac trusted them. These were familiar faces, people he'd laughed with. Upstairs, Big was said to be working with another artist, Little Sean. The invite sounded routine, just another night of music and money. But Destiny had other plans. As Pac stepped into the lobby, the energy shifted. Voices echoed from above. Cease calling out, hyped to see him. Then everything flipped. Out of nowhere, three men stormed in. Guns out, demands flying. Pac tried to fight back, even grabbed at one of the weapons, but it all happened too fast. Shots exploded through the hallway. One grazed his head. Another tore through his leg. 5 bullets. A robbery, they said, but it felt way too personal. Bleeding, dizzy, Pac still dragged himself upstairs, and there was Biggie. The look on Big's face? Shocked, confused, maybe guilty, depending on who you ask. Biggie swore later he had nothing to do with it, couldn't believe Pac would even think that way. But Pac wasn't hearing it. In his mind, someone had set him up. He connected the dots, even if they didn't belong together. Coincidence? Nah, not after that. To him, it was betrayal, plain and raw. Then came the final straw. While Pac was healing, then locked up on that case, Biggie dropped Who Shot Ya? A hard, cold track that sounded like a taunt. Big said it was recorded before the shooting, that it wasn't about Pac at all. But the timing, the tone, it felt like salt in an open wound. Pac sat in a cell with no mic, no stage. Just time to think and boil. The rumors started spinning through the streets like wildfire. Some said Bad Boy was behind it. Others said it was just a robbery gone sideways. But Pac didn't care what the streets thought. He'd already made up his mind. This was the same Biggie he fed in LA, the same brother who once crashed on his couch, the same dude he shared stages and bottles with. That bond was sacred, and now it felt shattered. In Pac's world, loyalty was law, the unwritten bro code. And Big broke it. Maybe it was paranoia, maybe it was truth twisted by whispers, but in his heart, the line was drawn. That night at Quad Studios didn't just change one life, it changed the whole game. It split hip-hop down the middle, East versus West, friend turned foe. And though Big tried to explain it later, the silence between them grew heavier. By the time he finally spoke up, just 1 week before his own death, the damage had already been done. Keep watching to know what he said.
Don't throw more gasoline on the fire to put it out.
A war of coasts. Tupac sat behind bars, angry and boiling over. He felt cornered, betrayed, and completely alone. The world outside was still spinning, but in his head, Everything had frozen on that one night at Quad Studios. The pain, the confusion, the whispers that wouldn't quit. Folks saying Biggie might have known something, or worse, been in on it. Whether true or not, it echoed in Pac's mind like a broken record. Then came Suge Knight. Not walking, storming. The man was a powerhouse, the kind who didn't just play the game, he flipped the whole table. Suge didn't slide in with words or promises. He came with action. He flew out, dropped $1.4 million like pocket change, and snatched Pac straight out of Clinton Correctional. Rolls Royce waiting, doors open, cameras flashing. That wasn't just a rescue, that was a statement. When Pac walked out that gate, he wasn't just free, he was reborn. New crew, new mission, new war. Death Row wasn't a label, it was an army. And with Pac now rocking their colors, the energy shifted hard. What had once been playful competition between coasts turned dark. The East-West tension wasn't just music anymore. It was pride, loyalty, and street politics rolled into one dangerous storm. Before that, the jabs were in lyrics, little digs in interviews, maybe some shade at an award show. But once Pac joined Death Row, the smoke turned into fire. This was no longer about charts or hits. It was about power, two coasts, two kings, and a game that was spinning out of control fast. Death Row versus Bad Boy.
Next year, Death Row gonna start printing our own money.
By the mid-90s, Death Row Records ran the West Coast like royalty. Dre, Snoop, and now Tupac. That lineup was untouchable. Their sound wasn't just music, it was rebellion on wax. Across the country, Bad Boy Records ruled the East. Sharp suits, clean beats, pure swagger, two empires, two visions of hip-hop power. Then came the night that split the room, the 1995 Source Awards. Suge Knight hit the stage, calm but deadly, eyes locked on the East Coast crowd. He dropped that shot about executive producers dancing in videos, and the whole building caught fire. There was boos and shouts, energy thick enough to slice. Then Snoop grabbed the mic, calling out New York for not showing love. That was it. The spark became a blaze. You could feel hip-hop cracking down the middle. Truth is, this tension didn't start with Pac and Big. The soil was already poisoned. Back in the early 90s, the West was tired of being treated like outsiders. The East acted like they owned real rap. Tim Dogg's F.D. Compton took his shots. Then Dre's The Chronic fired back. The music had been talking for years. Pac and Big just turned up the volume. When Pac walked out of prison and stepped under that Death Row banner, it wasn't a comeback. It was a declaration of war. With Suge Knight behind him and the whole West riding shotgun, Tupac came back swinging. And then came Hit 'Em Up. That track didn't just diss, it detonated. From the first bar, Pac went for blood. No metaphors, no sugarcoating. He called names, exposed secrets, threw his pain into the mic, and made sure everyone felt the burn. It wasn't just music anymore, it was vengeance. Every lyric carried the weight of the Quad shooting, the betrayal, the loneliness he felt behind those bars. And when Pac dragged Biggie's wife into it, the game hit a point of no return. Faith Evans was a singer signed to Bad Boy. Word was, Pac met her at a party in late '95, said she recorded vocals for one of his songs. Soon after, Pac started teasing that they'd been more than collaborators. Told reporters she'd brought him gifts, made it sound romantic. Faith denied it all, said he never even paid her for the studio session, called his story nothing but noise. But by then, the streets had already chosen sides. Biggie stayed calm in public, no diss tracks, no interviews full of rage, but behind the scenes, it was tearing him up. The thought that Pac might have touched his wife, that wasn't just disrespect, it was personal destruction. By 1996, the feud had turned into a wildfire nobody could control. Diss tracks, interviews, whispers, it was everywhere. Fans picked coasts, crews stopped crossing lines. And at the heart of it all were two men who once shared laughter, dreams, and brotherhood, now trapped in a war too big for either to survive. What started as music had become something darker, something fatal. And soon, it would claim one of hip-hop's brightest voices.
It gives me a certain amount of freedom in my music.
When the Music Stops, September 7, 1996. Las Vegas was lit, cameras flashing, limos lined up, and the MGM Grand pulsing with fight night energy. Mike Tyson versus Bruce Seldon. It was a big night, big crowd, and Tupac rolled in with Suge Knight and the Death Row entourage. The crew looked untouchable, loud and sharp, walking with that kind of confidence that made people move out of the way. The plan was simple: celebrate Tyson's win, make an appearance, enjoy the night. But fate switched the beat. When the fight ended, Tyson knocking Seldon out in minutes, the crowd flooded into the casino halls. Laughter, champagne, noise everywhere. Then it happened. Trevon Lane, one of Death Row's own and tied to the mob Piru Bloods, spotted Orlando Anderson from the rival Southside Compton Crips. The two had bad blood, a mall robbery months earlier that never really ended. Lane pointed him out to Pac. Pac didn't think twice. Cameras later caught it all. Pac walking straight up, asking Anderson where he was from, then swinging first. A brawl broke out right there in the lobby. Suggs jumped in. Others followed, and Anderson got stomped out hard before security broke it up. For Pac, it probably felt like payback. For everyone else, it felt like trouble waiting to explode. Back at the Luxor, Pac met up with his girlfriend, Kadada Jones. He'd promised her they'd celebrate later, but his mood had shifted. He showered, threw on fresh clothes, and told her he'd be back after hitting a death row party at Club 662. But he never made it there. Around 11 that night, Pac and Suga were cruising the Vegas Strip in a black BMW, top down, music up. A car full of women pulled up beside them, and Pac, being Pac, leaned out joking and flirting. The night felt light again for a second until it wasn't. A white Cadillac slid up on the other side. The back window rolled down. Then came the flash. Gunfire ripped through the air, loud, fast, brutal. Pac took 4 shots, 2 to the chest, 1 to the arm, 1 to the thigh. 1 bullet pierced his lung. Sugay caught some shrapnel, but somehow kept driving, trying to get away. Sirens followed, lights flashed, and within minutes, paramedics had Tupac on a stretcher, racing to University Medical Center. He was alive, barely, sedated, hooked to machines, his body fighting to hang on. The hospital room turned into a fortress. Friends, family, and the death row circle kept watch. Rumors spread like smoke, talk that the shooters might come back to finish it. Nobody felt safe. Kadada stayed by his side, playing songs by his bed, whispering to him, waiting for even the smallest sign. One time, she said his eyes moved when Vincent played, but the strength that had carried him this far was fading. On September 13, 1996, at 4:03 p.m., Tupac Amaru Shakur's fight finally ended. His mother, Afeni, stood strong as she made the call to let him go. 25 years old, gone way too soon. A legend turned myth, his voice still echoing through a world that never stopped talking about him. If that was bad, here's where it gets wild.
People, or for people who want to come to a better understanding on how things really are, then they did a good job.
Another death, Biggie knew from his final interviews that the streets were watching and that danger was never far. But even he couldn't have imagined it would hit so soon. Christopher Wallace, the notorious B.I.G., had flown into Los Angeles in February 1997, riding the wave of anticipation for Life After Death, his second album. He was filming the Hypnotize video, promoting the record, and building momentum for the March 25 release. The album was supposed to mark evolution, from raw street chronicles to a more complete, polished legacy. March 7 brought the Soul Train Music Awards. Biggie stepped on stage to present an award to Toni Braxton. The audience reaction was mixed, cheers, and boos, collided in the same air. The tension was a reminder that the Coastal feud had left marks deeper than music could ever cover. Biggie didn't flinch. He said what he needed to and walked off, composed. But by past midnight, he met his disaster that ended his life at exactly 12:45 a.m. The music world shuddered. This wasn't just a loss, it was a generation's voice silenced. Months after Tupac's death, Biggie's death made one thing painfully clear. The feud had spiraled beyond control, leaving only grief, unanswered questions, and a legacy forever shadowed by violence. So now we all know the whispers on the street. We still asking, who's the mastermind behind making Tupac and Biggie disappear? Was there another Lord of the Streets working in the shadows? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to stay tapped in on discoveries, rumors, and the real stories they never wanted us to see, hit that like button, subscribe, and check out the next video popping up on your screen.